few days ago, maybe a bit more than a few days ago, one of my long-term subscribers asked me to give my opinion about Simone Biles. I had no idea who Simone Biles was. So I looked up and I discovered that she is one of the world's most talented athletes. Yes, and I did know who she was. I'd seen videos of her performing her gymnastics routine in other situations, and she is truly astonishing. That's without a doubt. But then what happened was she went to the Olympics in Tokyo and ended up just walking out. And I'm assuming that that's what my subscriber wanted me to talk about. So I'm going to run through the video and I'm going to give you some opinions. Now, the reason I haven't spoken about it before is because it's a very difficult subject. She brought up the issue of mental health, mental stability. And I think that is what has how do I put this? It's silenced a lot of people who might be otherwise critical of her because, well, what if she gets so disturbed that she does something silly, and then they'll feel responsible. So the situation is very difficult. If you rip into this woman and then it turns out later that she's really, really sick, then you feel like a heel, and furthermore, everyone else will think you're a heel as well. So all I can do is give you my opinion based on what I see right now, and I could be completely wrong. I'm just telling you about the impression I got, and the impression I am getting, which is something that's being filtered through the news. So again, it might not be accurate. Anyway, we all know what the news is like now, don't we? Let's get started. I have a video of her here being interviewed, and I'm going to make a few words about it. So let's get on with the first section of it.
No injury, thankfully, and that's why I took a step back, because I didn't want to do something silly out there and get injured. So I thought it was best if these girls took over and did the rest of the job.
Now, first of all, I want to tell you what I can see there. She's very businesslike. She doesn't look like she has some sort of a psychological problem. She may do, but she doesn't look like that. She's very matter of fact about it. And what she says is, I didn't want to get an injury or make a mistake, and so I thought I should step back and let the other girls get on with it. So to start with, my feeling about this is that she doesn't feel like she is in any way responsible for the predicament in which the rest of the team found themselves. She could say that it's her sense of responsibility that made her remove herself, but I don't see what difference. I mean, maybe I've got this wrong, but it doesn't seem to me that if she did a less than optimal performance or even injured herself, which, nobody wants to see happen, that would have done any the worse for her team than her absenting herself. It seems to me that is as much an attack on their ambitions as her carrying on and not being as good as she wished she could be. Well, we all have those episodes, don't we? All right, so that's the first impression I got from that section. Now let me carry on with a bit more.
Which they absolutely did. They're Olympic silver medalists now, and they should be really proud of themselves for how well they did last minute having to go in. And it's been really...
Okay, so she's congratulating them on how they managed to do so well without her. She has not yet expressed any sorrow for what happened, for her letting them down, because whether it was her, whether she was right to step back or not, there's no doubt that she was letting them down. And she doesn't seem to be beating herself up about this at all. Okay, next bit. Let's try this.
Stressful, this Olympic Games, I think, just as a whole, not having an audience there.
Right, okay, now she says the Olympic Games are stressful. They're always stressful, and there's no audience. And obviously it means, when you're a performer, because after all, to a certain extent, she is a performer as well as an athlete. She needed the crowd to feed off when she was doing her stuff. Well, yes, it does help when you have an audience. I know when I'm talking to a class or something, there's more give and take. There's more movement, there's more flow, and it is much easier to talk than to talk to this camera. But I still do it. I do my best with it because that's what I have. And she seems to be more concerned that she doesn't have the admiring crowd, that's cramping her style. And that does concern me a little bit. Okay, a bit more.
There are a lot of different variables going into it. It's been a long week. It's been a long Olympic process. It's been a long...
Now, I want to go over that again. She said it's been a long week. Well, yes. It's been a long Olympic process. Well, yes. It's been like that for everyone. I want you to watch her hand, okay?
There are a lot of different variables going into it. It's been a long week. It's been a long Olympic process. It's been a long year.
The way she's touching the side of her head, it seems to me that she was shielding herself, but not shielding herself from you or the interviewer, shielding herself from herself. She was touching herself. She was petting herself. She was comforting herself. I think that somewhere in there she has the feeling she didn't quite do the right thing, whatever she's saying, and she's trying to make up for it in some way within herself. Okay, let's carry on.
Here, so just a lot of different variables, and I think
a lot of different variables. Look, there are always different variables. This doesn't mean anything. If she could say it, she might as well have said the sun was rising and setting. I mean, this is the situation. She's an athlete. She was in a competition, and there are always going to be variables. All right, a bit more.
We're just a little bit too stressed out.
She was a little bit too stressed out. Look, I want to talk about being an athlete. Biles is without doubt one of the most talented athletes that has ever been produced by America. She has absolutely amazing physique. She has the most, now, what's it called? Proprioception, isn't it? When you know exactly where every part of your body is. Now, she has, in order to be that sort of an athlete, you have to be extraordinarily proprioceptive. Is that the word? Let's have a look. Hang on. Good old Wikipedia. Proprioceptive. Oh yeah, I got it right. Okay. You have to be a genius level of that much. Not many of us have that type of talent. She's got it. She has the muscles. She has the height. It's all come together. She's got the lung capacity, I suppose. But it's not only what's going on in here that makes you an athlete. It's what's going on in here as well, what she was pointing to just before. Inside there wasn't an athlete. There was a performer, and that performer missed the crowd. That's a different sort of person. And I want you to look at that face there. That face there, to me, now look, I've frozen her in the middle of a conversation, so again, I could be wrong, but she's looking sideways, and she may be looking at another reporter. It doesn't look like an honest expression. I'm sorry, I mean, that's just the impression I'm getting. All right. Right, let's carry on.
But we should be out here having fun, and sometimes that's not the case.
Right, okay, just a minute. No. This is not having fun. This is deadly serious. This is athletics for your country. You are not out there having fun. If you enjoy it, that's very nice and all well and good, but that's not why you have been taken by your heavily funded team to Tokyo to show off your country's ability to produce athletes of your type. You are not there to have fun. Okay, let's carry on.
I just felt like it would be a little bit better to take a back seat, work on my mindfulness, and I knew
Okay, so this is the mental health. I think it would be better to take a back seat. No, what she's saying here is that I'm not getting the audience, so I'm going to step out of it. And that's really what it looks like. Look, again, I could be wrong, but that's the impression I'm getting from this interview. Okay, let's carry on.
that the girls would do an absolutely great job, and I didn't want to risk the team a medal for.
She didn't want to risk the team a medal. Now, maybe I've got this wrong, but it seems to me that you risk a medal when you walk out, when you know you're the star and you walk out on the rest of your team and leave them to deal with it. I mean, how many of us have been to parties or whatever, and then everybody's gone and you're left cleaning up? Nobody offered to do it. Well, basically, that's what she was doing. All right. And yeah, and sort of dismissive. Now, this is a common thing you hear. You get some downtrodden woman whose, parents have died or something, and the brother is lounging about, not doing anything, and he's letting her do all the legal stuff and that sort of thing. I've seen it happening. And then I asked this chap, well, how's X doing? She seems to be doing all the work here, organising the funeral and all the rest of it. And all he said was, well, she's very strong. I can't manage that sort of thing. And I thought, you bastard, I felt like shaking him. All right, let's carry on.
Kind of my screw ups, because they've worked way too hard for that. So I just decided that those girls need to go in and do the rest of the competition.
Okay, so those girls, not my team, those girls need to do the rest, and I'm going to walk away from it. They can have the stress. I'm not going to shoulder that. Okay, let's carry on.
Yeah, I say put mental health first, because if you don't, then
put mental health first. And that's what she's found a really good thing. Now, she could be having mental health problems, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of people aren't going for her in that way. She's pulling out the mental health card. But and again, this could be correct. But I don't know, I just don't get that impression. Again, maybe I'm misreading her, but that's not the impression I'm getting. But it does damp down the criticism. And yeah, now again, I'm saying an athlete is not just a good physique and good proprioception and a lot of training. It's the brain inside there. And she's saying that she can't take that sort of stress. That means she might as well not be as fit or not have the proprioception she has, because that is a lack as much as a muscle group that might be missing. Okay, let's carry on.
You're not going to enjoy your sport, and
You're not going to enjoy your sport. Look, at this point, you're not there to enjoy your sport. You are there to represent your country. That's a different matter. You get a satisfaction out of doing your best for your country. You don't necessarily enjoy it at the time. You do later on. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, I think. I'll take some personal experience, although I freely admit me criticising that sort of a physique is like a gnat criticising an elephant. All right, let's carry on.
You're going to succeed as much as you want to, so it's okay.
All right. So she knows, I think she made not a very good showing in the first part of it. Now, that might be because already her heart wasn't in it. Or it might be because she didn't make a good showing and then she thought, well, what the hell, I'm not going to make a good showing, so I'm not going to do it. And she's talking about enjoying herself. And this is not what she is here to do. All right, carry on.
Sometimes to even sit out the big competitions, to focus on yourself, because it shows how strong of a competitor and person that you really are.
No, really, at that point, what you say is, look, I didn't come up to the mark. I let myself down. I couldn't carry on. She can say that. I couldn't carry on. I found it too stressful. I apologized to my teammates because I have a weakness which I have only just discovered. And I'm really, the dog's groaning there next to me. And I am, and that's what she should be saying, but that's not what she's saying. She has managed to say, I walked out on them because I found it too stressful and I wasn't enjoying myself. So I'm going to say I'm strong because I admitted I couldn't keep it up. Well, that's not what the Olympics is all about. Well, not in my book anyway. All right, Nick.
Rather than just battle through it.
So I'm not going to battle through it. I'm going to leave the other guys to battle through it. What if they all said, well, if you're not doing it, neither are we? No, they carried on. Why is the press not giving them the sort of kudos that they deserve for carrying on when she abandoned them in that way because she wasn't enjoying herself? All right, now I think that's the end. Yeah, that's the end of her interview. I'm just going to add a few points here. And I made some notes. So she took the place of somebody else, obviously. And that somebody else is in America rather than in the team. And she had a responsibility to that person as well, because that person is there now thinking, I could have been in the team. That person will be haunted by that. Now, she may not have been as brilliant as Biles. I don't think anyone is. But that's not the point, is it? Right, what's the next note? So, again, I want to return to the rest of the team. When your star teammate, or even a not so star teammate, just walks out on the game, That knocks their confidence, that knocks them for six, and they still managed to get a silver medal. All kudos to them. They kept their heads, they did brilliantly, and they deserve far more than the press is giving them, because now I'm always losing these things, but there are several articles in the press. I won't go into them now because they're long anyway. But there's a lot of stuff in the press and in the media about how stunning and brave Biles is for walking out on her teammates. No, she may have had her issues. She may have discovered a weakness in her personality, which she wasn't aware of, and that's reasonable. But that's nothing to celebrate. It's a failure. It is a failure. Okay, so I'll just go into my experience, and it's a very small experience, but I just want to tell you something. You see, as everyone knows, I ride horses, and actually I haven't been doing as many videos as I was doing during the winter, mostly, well, because there were lockdowns and things, but also because now there are more competitions and I'm participating in them. So last week, no, 2 weeks ago, I was in a competition, and it was the first one I'd done in almost 2 years. I had a very bad experience 2 years ago, and I was injured. Now, I didn't say that in my videos. As far as you were concerned, I was still sitting there making videos, but I was quite serious, not seriously injured, nothing was broken. I had some torn stuff. It took months to heal, and I was in considerable pain. And it was all because of a bad incident I had while I was riding a horse. So when I started to prepare myself for this particular event I attended, I was very, very nervous. I mean, look at me. I'm an old lady. If I fall off a horse, I don't bounce. I'm likely to just shatter like glass. So I was really frightened. Now, I can't stand John Wayne. I thought he was awful. If ever I see a film and it sounds interesting and I discover he's in it, I don't watch the film. But he did say something. I don't know whether it was something he thought up himself or somebody wrote for him. But he once said, bravery isn't not being afraid. Bravery is being terrified but saddling up anyway. And in that, he, or the scriptwriter or whatever, is quite correct. So I was getting ready for this thing, and I was having flashbacks to the previous experience. And there I was in my nice jacket and my clean shirt and my smart tie and my my little hat and all showy and everything. And the day before, I was in a state of nervous prostration that you can hardly imagine. I really wanted to pull out. And in fact, my teacher said, do you want to pull out? And I said, no, I've got this far. I'm going to carry on. I couldn't sleep the night before, and on the day I still wanted not to do it, and I was shaking in my highly polished boots. But I kept, I was shaking so much. I mean, literally shaking. I couldn't do up my shirt button. The collar, it's always tricky anyway. My hands were shaking so much. I was having trouble getting the button through the buttonhole. But I kept on going, and I did it, basically because I wanted to prove to myself that I was getting over this incident. But it was also because I had a bunch of friends who were helping me. Look, I'm not a professional rider. Everyone helps everybody else. We all get a certain amount of pleasure out of helping each other in a situation like that. And all these friends had organised it so that on that day they were going to be helping me. And if I'd have pulled out, that would have spoiled their day. And of course, it would have meant I would have let myself down as well. So I just kept on. And I did it. I went through it. I went through it mostly because my friends expected me to go through it. And I got onto that horse and I grabbed the reins in my shaking hands and I just looked at that horse's ears. And I hoped that at the end of the event, I'd still be looking at its ears and not at its disappearing hind quarters in the distance. And yeah, I stayed on. That was all right. As a matter of fact, I came first. Now, I got over the injury. I cleared it from my mind now. So everybody who's done any sports knows about this. The footballer who goes to play when he's not feeling 100%, but still carries on. And yes, you can injure yourself. I mean, there has to be a limit. But it didn't look like Ms. Biles was in that sort of a state. Her limit was in her brain. And yes, it might have been right that she stopped. But what it wasn't right was her telling us all how brave that she had been to stop. No, she let her friends down. She let her team down. She let her country down. And she let herself down. And these things do happen. And it's very sad. But it isn't a role model. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the Graniopteryx design or Granbo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.graniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.